When you're doing bridal makeup, you have to remember it's all of this in one, right? It's red carpet makeup in one. It is photo shoot makeup in one.
One more thing is that makeup should last for the entire year.
Exactly.
Salomi Rinita Diamond. She has been the makeup artist behind 1,000 unforgettable weddings, bringing 10 years of expertise to every breaststroke.
I truly believe like the green room, like you say, like where the bride is getting ready is a very sacred space. What happens when there are too many people there is they are always telling their preferences. An aunt comes in and she's like, oh, you remember what Kirti Suresh did for her wedding? You should try that.
Okay.
And I'm like, do not confuse my bride. Stop it.
So when it comes to the celebrity clients, how do you differentiate them as a real bride versus a model who's a bride?
Most of my celebrity clients, when they come to me, they want to be as minimal as possible.
Has there been any situation where your respect has been impacted or compromised in any of the weddings?
Respect is luxury.
Okay.
For makeup artists. The brides probably know who you are, but the family, they don't have to know you for your social currency, right? Not for your followers. Like, for example, we have a drapist. Bride's father walked in, throws a shirt on the bed where my drapist is draping, and he was like, can you iron this?
People don't get it.
They don't get it.
What are the 3 tips that you will tell for your brides?
One thing I want you to do is...
Have you ever faced any payment issues?
Lot of payment issues. Wedding industry itself, I think, is a little unstructured. Putting any sort of structure there and putting your foot down and standing by it is the need of the hour. Imagine you're calling them 7 days before the event and the bride is like, yeah, please speak to my mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law is like, please speak to my son.
Let's say you're a bride. What are the things that you will expect from a makeup artist?
Nice.
It's always one's dream to achieve a particular milestone in one's career. We have one such guest who have achieved a milestone by creating flawless and stunning look for 1,000 plus brides. And with such experience and knowledge, we have Salomi here who gave us in-depth insight about bridal makeup industry. 80% of our viewers who watch the show regularly are not subscribed to us. So can I ask you a favor? If you like our show, if you like what we do here, the simple and easy way to support us is by hitting the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that we'll do everything in our part to bring more such makeup artists to our show every month. Enjoy the show. So after working in Mac and after being an accountant and after working in Mac, so at what point did you decide to start your Diamond Artistry? And you wanted to completely focus on bridal. So you are now at 1,000 plus brides.
Yes. So Diamond Artistry, I think after I left Mac, I wasn't sure. So I left Mac, I was pregnant and I left Mac, I was 22. I left Mac. I was kind of clueless. So as soon as I had the baby, I had to decide if I wanted to go back to retail or if I could do something else in artistry. And I already knew the opportunity of freelance makeup artists, especially in the wedding industry. But I wasn't too sure if that's what I wanted to do, as like take as my career path. So I did do a couple of, I was freelancing. And then I was going back and forth if I wanted to establish a name, if I should just call this Diamond Artistry.
Okay.
I also had this name called Makeup Savior.
Okay.
Which is
that was your username back then?
That was my, back then. And then that was when I think I remember having a conversation with my mother and I was telling her, I'm going to go ahead and keep this as my name. And my mom was like, yeah, but that's a username. That's not a business name.
Okay.
Like, what are you trying to do with a username? And so I think that's when I got some clarity that, what you are on Instagram is not your business as such. So then Diamond is my surname. Artistry was just what I was doing. So that's how Diamond Artistry came.
Okay. So back then you knew that wedding industry is going to boom. So then you planned and entered into it or how?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh. I wish I was such a visionary, but clearly not. Back then it was just, I think I went with the flow. I started doing weddings, but I was open to doing a lot. I was doing fashion a little bit. I would experiment. So in Chennai, the fashion scene, it's not, at least I think back then it wasn't even as much as it is right now. So I would collaborate with a few photographers and try fashion. I also had the amazing opportunity to work in the movie industry.
Very early on in your career?
Not as early as when I started off, but then within a couple of years, I did stumble upon the movies. And only after about 4 or 5 years in the industry, I decided, okay, I need to cut down the noise and I needed to focus
on bridal.
Yeah.
Okay. But then what is the difference that you see in brides 10 years ago and 10 years from now? So what is the difference in a bride's expectation from 2014 bride to a 2024-2025 bride?
I would like to say that social media and Instagram has given brides clarity now, but ironically, I think it's caused more confusion than ever.
Okay, why so?
Because they're exposed to a lot. Earlier on, brides were exposed to a little, so they were able to decide what exactly they wanted.
Okay.
But now brides are exposed to a lot, and more than clarity, I feel like a lot of people come with a little bit of confusion, and that is why they need like a professional to sort out.
Okay, confusion in terms of what, like what color of lipstick?
Yes,
Okay.
so they everything is easily available to them. I remember back in 2014. We had about two international makeup brands in India.
What were they? MAC?
MAC majorly, there was Krylin. There weren't many professional brands as such. So they weren't exposed to a lot. So the choices were easy to make. Now they have everything to make, right? And also, more than access to products, it's the access to knowledge. Everything's easily available. They think they know everything because they watched a couple of YouTube videos.
Correct.
And that is where they get very confused. So I remember back in 2014, a bride will never come and tell me, oh, I know this is going to suit me because I watched a video and I tried it at home and it worked for me. And I'd be like,
Okay.
But now a lot of people do that. So, yeah.
So we had Sneha, makeup artist, on a show.
Yes.
So she told the same thing. So the last reel which a bride or the client watched, no, that is their inspiration and they'll show the same thing.
True.
What are groom's expectation like back then and now? And back then, I believe there's not a lot of grooms who even want makeup on their face.
So back then, not many people wanted makeup. In fact, we used to ask them to get something done because we didn't want them to look so dull. But grooms these days are full on, and yeah, I'm actually enjoying the process because they don't just come for the makeup. So when I sit with grooms, like when they come in for bridal consultations with the bride, they're telling me that they're taking care of their skin. They're like, oh, 6 months munadiye na start pannidiya. So they're even more worried about how their skin looks and how
they look on the stage.
But they do the entire process. It's not like grooms are also very well read now in terms of how they're looking, right? So they're not coming and saying, okay, I'm coming on that day, fix me for that day. They're saying, I'm going to my dermatologist, I'm getting my facials done, I'm doing all of this. So you do what you have to do on the day so that, which is
that's
nice.
A good thing.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah. So Salomi, what's your take on trial makeup? I can see from your website here, so you particularly mentioned that while you emphasize trial makeup, it's not absolutely essential.
Yes.
So what do you mean by that?
Okay, so I have multiple answers to this question because I've answered a lot of people for this. I think trial makeup, according to me, I'll be very clear on that, is an outdated concept.
Okay.
One, back in the days, I'm not even talking about 2014, 2015, right? I'm talking about back in 2010 or even earlier on. Not many people had an extensive portfolio the way makeup artists have a portfolio right now. And say, for example, back then a makeup artist was saying, I did this look. You didn't know if they actually did that look. They can show you like a picture of Simran or Jyotika and say,
randomly they can show someone.
Yeah, they can show anybody. And how will you know that they did this? But with the way social media is right now, you will always know if that person did this work or not.
Okay.
And with the way makeup artists are building their portfolios, it's very evident of what they're capable of. So for that reason, I think it is not really required. Trial makeups are not really required for everyone. But say I say all this to a bride is still coming and telling me, listen, I know you're a great makeup artist. I'm not doubting that. But is it going to look good on me? Now, I had a phase as an artist. As I grew as an artist, there was a point when I was doing no makeup looks that was my signature, no makeup look. And if people come in for a trial, they would love it. Because they're coming in with like casual clothes, they're just chilling, they're like with their parents, with their fiance. I put like a no makeup look and I show them and they're like, oh my God, this is beautiful. But as an artist, I have evolved. My style is no more the no makeup look. I want to create more impactful looks. And when I do such looks and when they're not seeing themselves in their outfit with the lighting a photographer provides in the green room on the day, with the stage lighting, with their jewelry, they're going to not hire me at all. They're going to freak out.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm borderline between super glam and drag queen makeup.
Okay.
Right? Because it is heavy makeup, it's bridal makeup. So brides are not going to understand it with just simple clothes on.
Okay.
And for this reason, I've just decided I'm not going to offer trials.
Okay.
Because I'm going to confuse them more.
So I'll ask you one thing. Is there a solution where you ask them to bring their bridal outfit to your studio and you can try on?
We do. So my team still offers trial makeup.
Okay.
It's just me that I don't offer trial makeup. So when my team offers, we suggest bring your outfit, wear something that's as close as possible in terms of the color. Wear a color that's as close as possible to what you're wearing. Bring your jewelry, not everything. Maybe your earrings, maybe like your headpiece, anything that's close to the face. Bring that so you'll understand makeup a little better.
Okay.
They do that. It does help. But for me, I don't think personally, again, not for my team, speaking for myself, I don't think my style of makeup can be rehearsed and then redone on the day of the event.
Yeah.
As an artist, I truly believe, and like for me, the creative magic kind of flows when I'm in the green room on the day working on the bride. I just work better.
Okay.
So
you also think that you cannot replicate the same makeup again? Is that
yes,
the case?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I have done, so it's not like I've not done trial makeups, right? I used to offer trials for a long time, long part of my career. And every time a bride has done a trial with me, and after the day of the event, when they've come to me, like we always ask them for feedback. So when I ask them for feedback, they were like, dude, the trial was such a waste of time. And I'm like, thanks.
Okay.
But they've always said that the wedding look was impeccable. And after I did the trial, I was just like, I was satisfied, but it wasn't like, I wasn't mind blown. So yeah, I can replicate a look that I've done on the trial, but I always feel it looks and it translates much better on the day of the wedding.
Right.
So
okay, fine. So you spoke about the lighting part, right? So how important is it, the lighting part?
I think it's the most important. Lighting when we're doing makeup is majorly important. And lighting differs, right? Like the same light. So when I'm sitting with a bride, I'm doing it in front of a ring light. And I want like neutral light on her to understand, everything about her skin. But I also have to make sure what the photographer is doing right after. So as a makeup artist, this is why it's so important. One of the first questions I ask my bride is, who's your photographer?
Okay.
And it's so important to know like certain styles.
So you'll get in touch with the photographer also?
Not exactly. Not anymore. Earlier on, we will speak to the photographer. We will find out. There was a point when we even used to ask, when I used to find out if that particular photographer uses a Godox stick light or a nan light stick light, because there's difference.
The quality of light
is different, and the harshness of the light is different, and we just have to take all of that into consideration.
And one more thing to take into consideration is, okay, this is a photo shoot. How does she look on the stage? That also matters, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we make sure we avoid anything that will cause any sort of flashback on her face. That's the main thing. So when you're doing bridal makeup, you have to remember it's all of this in one, right? It's red carpet makeup in one. It is photo shoot makeup in one. It is, so what you're doing on a celebrity is completely different. What you're doing on a model when she's at a photo shoot is completely different. And for a bride, you need all of it. Because she needs to look impeccable on the camera. She needs to look great on the stage. So considering all these different elements.
And one more thing is that makeup should last for the entire evening.
Exactly. Yes. Longevity is like the main thing. Yeah. So we're considering the finish and the longevity, and we're making sure all of this comes together in one sitting.
Yeah.
So it is difficult, but I think experience plays a major role there. And being in the industry for the last 10 years, I've realized like I've picked this out of experience mainly. I don't think there was anybody to teach me this when I started off.
Okay. So I've also seen in your website, you have particularly mentioned no one except client and one family member or friend should be there in the green room.
Yes.
So why is it explicitly mentioned on your website, and has there been any incident behind it?
Many incidents.
Okay.
I truly believe like the green room, like you say, like where the bride is getting ready is a very sacred space and has to be maintained like that. What happens when there are too many people there is they are always uh, telling their preferences, right? Especially if it's the mother or the best friend or the aunt. They're always like, "Hey, இப்படி பண்ணா நல்லா இருக்கும். Hey, இது பண்ணு."
Just do that. Yeah.
See, and they've also always um, they're also exposed to reels on Instagram.
They have their own
Oh,
opinion.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, even recently, I remember everything is set with the bride. An aunt comes in and she was like, "Oh, you remember what Kirti Suresh did for her wedding? You should try that."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Do not confuse my bride. Stop it." So,
Already that, since you are not even doing trial makeup, so this is going to be your one thing, right?
yes, this is your one chance at it, and you want to nail it. At the end of the day, for me, handling others' preferences is not priority. Handling the peace of my bride's mind was priority. And for that reason, we like to keep one person in the room who is as calming as possible, who is not like, inducing more anxiety on her. We also prefer someone in the room because trust, you will not believe the number of times people knock at a bride's room.
Okay.
If it's a 3-hour process, they are knocking like every 10 minutes. And one of us have to get up. Like it's either me or my hairstylist, so we have to go get up and, open and do stuff. So we just prefer having somebody who's calming to the bride.
Okay.
Just keep
fine.
one person around.
All right.
Otherwise, nobody else.
So you mentioned 3 hours, right? So usually how long you take to get a bride ready?
We take about 1.5 hours. See, this is
that's
actually the time that we take. But we
including hair?
Including hair.
Oh, okay.
Me and my hairstylist, we work simultaneously. So
I've recently traveled, okay? So we went to Sri Lanka and Malaysia. So there the Tamil brides take literally 4 hours to get ready. So that's how they operate in Sri Lanka and Malaysia. The makeup artists literally take 4 hours to get the makeup ready. I think in Chennai we are a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will take a lot of pride, and I'm going to self-proclaim myself as the fastest makeup artist there is here.
Okay.
But if you should read my reviews, like everybody says I'm really quick at what I do. It is probably a ADHD thing, but I am really quick with what I do. So we take about 1.5 hours, but we ask the bride for 3 hours. Because we also want to calculate some time for the photographer. So say for example...
Oh, that's so good of you actually.
Yeah.
You take into consideration of photographers.
We have to, yes. And we let the photographers in. We are not the makeup artists who are saying, fulla ready aitida, the photographer has to come. No, nothing like that. We're very particular that the photographer comes in when we're 80% done. Even if my bride is not calling the photographer, I'll ask, can I have their number? I'll have my assistant call them in. So about 20% the photographer starts shooting. Now this also depends on who the photographer is, because I've done many weddings and I know a lot of photographers here. If we know this is a photographer who is going to be a pain in the process, we don't let them inside.
Okay.
But if they're going to be very candid and they're going to be in a corner just doing their thing, we don't mind them being a part of the process.
All right. And so how do you speed up your makeup process, no? Is it because of your practice, or is it because of your decision making that you take quick decisions?
Yes, I think quick decisions majorly. Also experience. I should give it to it. But recently I started doing something new, and I started slowing down.
Okay.
So every time you adapt a new skill or adapt a new style, and you're trying to do something different from what you're comfortable with, it does take a toll on the timing. But the bride will never know that, because we don't tell the bride 1.5 hours. We're always saying 3 hours.
3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
3 hours is the sweet spot.
Sweet spot, yeah.
Right. So Salomi, has there been any situation where your respect has been impacted or compromised in any of the weddings?
That's such a great question.
Okay.
As a bridal makeup artist, and it's a bitter pill to swallow, but I'll have to say it. Respect is luxury.
Okay.
For makeup artists.
Okay.
I'm not
I would say for photographers also.
Really?
Yeah.
I was always hoping it was better for photographers.
Depends on the photographer. Depends on who you are as a photographer.
Probably. True. So I have seen a huge difference in how it started. Earlier on in the days, it was very obvious that we were like very obviously disrespected.
Okay.
Now there are undercurrents of the disrespect.
Like how? Like
Let me, like, for example, I'm giving you something that happened back, I think, in the year 2021 or 2022. I am sitting here doing makeup on a bride. My hairstylist is working. I even mentioned this on my Instagram quite recently, right? So we have a drapist, right? She's the one who's draping and ironing out the sari of the bride. And we're like trying to make the bride's life as easy as possible. Whereas the bride's father walked in, throws a shirt on the bed where my drapist is draping. And he was like, can you iron this as well?
okay.
Like, that was our job. And I was taken aback and I was just like, no way that happened. And my drapist was turning and looking at me because she was quite clueless. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but we don't offer that service. And he's actually telling us, like, she's ironing anyway. Like, let her just do this. It's not going to take so long.
People don't get it.
They don't get it. They're like, it's not our job. Yeah, something as silly. I'm talking about recent times.
Okay.
But I think one thing the industry needs to stand up for is that however unstructured it may feel, basic human respect is very important. And the fact that a lot of makeup artists take it easy, like we do grow thick skin, because we've been in the industry for so long and we're just like, okay, I'm not going to respond to this. And even for me as an artist, I choose my battles.
Okay, finally, but what did you end up doing there?
Oh no, I very clearly said, I'm so sorry. I was very sweet. I was like, uncle, I'm really sorry. We don't do that. He was like, oh, just do it. It's not a big deal. And we're like, I'm so sorry. And then I looked at the bride and very sternly told the bride that I'm so sorry. This is not something we do. And then she had to convince her father. Right. At one point, he was even like, oh, if you can't do this, you can just leave. And I was like, I'm good to go. And the bride was like, no.
So your daughters.
Yeah.
Now I clearly understand why you have mentioned all the rules and sets in your website.
So it's so important when you have, like, you have to let people know that you're a professional. And you're not just here to do, they've not hired you for the day to do
whatever the wedding.
Exactly. So,
right. So usually, Salomi, when a bride hires you, they want your personal touch. Let's say I'm hiring you. I want Salomi as my makeup artist. So what do you do when your team goes and does the makeup?
So for me, I started off by myself. And then I realized I wasn't creating a business. I was just creating a job for me to do.
Okay.
And for me to establish that it's not just me, it took me a long time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And that's when hiring like-minded people, right? Like people who believe in the same vision was very important.
Okay.
Now I started picking people based on their talent in makeup, but the mindset is what makes them me.
Okay.
So that was really important for me. And as I picked out people like that, it got easier for me to deliver something even though I'm not there. So a lot of brides, especially my team brides, when they come in, most of them come asking for me. And then they see my team's work and they're okay with team's work. Then they go ahead. But in that process, I am equally involved. So I'm seeing what the bride is wearing. My team is always reporting to me. Even from the venue, they send me pictures.
Okay.
So we do a lot of brides out of Chennai as well. Whereas I'm majorly doing Chennai brides. So my brides are always on the spot. My team is sending me pictures of the brides saying, is this okay? And I'm always there if I want like last minute corrections.
Okay.
So this makes it easier for us to, I always tell my brides this, especially my team brides, I tell them this. I am the mind, they are the hand.
Okay.
So I'm the one working behind this. They're just executing the strategy that I am.
But how did you transfer your aesthetics and knowledge to your team?
So
because of a lot of practice or like?
Most of them are my students.
Oh,
so if they've studied with me, that's how, and then I choose them mostly if they've studied with me. Because I think that's when they understand my aesthetics of work. And also, so first is how talented they are. Second is their mindset, right? Like they have to have a similar mindset. So for me, I really had to, so we have weekly check-ins in terms of what they're doing, how they're doing, the team. We have monthly check-ins. We also have quarterly check-ins where I spend time with not just my team on their skills. We spend time on the kit. We see, like, we have quality checks. We'll do all of this
Okay, fine.
to make sure that diamond artistry is not diluted when it's going outside, but like
Right.
the essence is just getting stronger.
And your team also uses the same kit that you
Yes.
use. Okay.
Yes, very specifically.
Super. Okay. I'll ask you one challenging question. So, how do you retain the people in your team? Like, let's say, for example, there may be some people who want to learn from you and just get out of you, no?
Yes.
How do you retain those people?
Can I say I'm a great boss?
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. So I've had people who've been with me for 8 years. That's the longest. That's when I started Diamond Artistry, actually. 2016 was when I established Diamond Artistry. And not the first member, but like the few first members who joined my team are still with me. And I'm very fortunate for that. But I think communication and having like a very open relationship. One thing I've established with my team is that we don't really have an hierarchy as such. We're all. I keep telling my team, right? Like, you're not representing the brand. You're the brand when you're going out. Like, you don't go out like, oh, what are they going to think of Salomi if I do this? Like, what are they going to think of you? You are the brand. Like, you are Diamond Artistry. So I think having a lack of we all accountable, and that was like, these are things that I established with them when they join itself. I make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
And the communication that we have. If you should hang out with our team like once, you will understand that we're all just a bunch of friends who are goofing around. And we're not like, oh, she's the boss. Oh, she's her right hand. She's her left hand. It's not like that. We're just a bunch of people who come together with the same mindset that we want to give the bride the best.
Right.
So
that mindset only works, right?
Yeah. I don't think in a creative field you can
have any hierarchy.
Exactly.
So when it comes to the business side of makeup, no, like usually people take 50% advance and remaining 50% after the completion of the event. So you have mentioned in your website that you will take the remaining amount in 3 to 7 days before the event.
Yes.
So why is that put in your website and what's the reason?
Firstly, I think taking the commercials off before we go on the day of the event takes a lot of pressure off me and off the bride. Earlier, so this is a policy we've implied in the last about 2 years. So before that, when we used to go for the wedding, we'll finish makeup and then we'll have to ask the bride. And it's such a...
After the makeup, you cannot find the bride.
Yeah, it's such an icky moment because they want to go for the photo shoot. And you're there like, hi, can I expect the payment now?
Okay.
Hi, is your mom coming? And, you know, and they're like, can I go for the photo shoot? What do you say? You can't be like, no, pay me and then only go. We can't do that.
Okay.
So it gets very awkward. So over the last couple of years, we made it very clear that we want the payment upfront. So we won't bother you on the day of the event. And you don't have to bother us you don't have to be bothered by us. So I also think people take you a lot more seriously when they pay you upfront.
Okay.
I'm not sure if a lot of them will agree with me, but people do take us seriously when they've done.
But do everyone agree with this concept? Like they are ready to pay upfront?
I think when we started it was an issue because people were like, what is this? No other makeup artist is doing this. Why are you doing this? But we really take a stand and we say, you know, this is a policy. Like as a company, this is what we're following. And like the first couple of times we did have hiccups, but now it's a very smooth process. People know even before they pay in advance, when we are sending them like a performer invoice, we clearly mention the payment is going to be taken 7 days prior to the event as a confirmation.
Okay.
So they do take it seriously.
Right. So, but have you ever faced any payment issues before this, like payment delays?
Lot of payment issues.
Okay.
Lot of payment issues. I think very recently we had an issue where we didn't take the payment upfront, which is 1 in a million cases. The client got really busy. So you can't really like force them as well, right? Imagine you're calling them 7 days before the event and the bride is like, yeah, please speak to my mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law is like, please speak to my son.
Okay.
And we're running in circles. And this event, I think, happened outstation. So we weren't able to collect the payment. And I'm not even talking about long ago. I'm talking about less than 3 months ago.
Oh, okay.
So the event gets over. And we're getting a call from the groom's brother. And he mentions that we are not going to pay you.
Why?
Because they weren't happy with the work.
Oh, this is the one thing our people do.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? This was a team's event and I was there. I have a great administrative team, so I don't answer any of the phone calls.
Okay.
But that particular day, the person who was handling this client, my staff, was with me and she was on a call. And I could hear the conversation. So I stopped her and I said, put it on speaker. I want to hear what's happening. And I was there. And I'm listening. And then the groom's brother's explaining that, my mom wasn't very happy with your work. And I also heard from the team, like I told you, I know what's happening with the team. So the team told me the previous day that they'd been taunting them ever since they walked in.
Okay.
So this was like a family problem where the mother-in-law wanted somebody else. The bride wanted us.
Okay.
And because they had to give in to the bride, they took that entire problem on us. And ever since my team walked in, I remember one of my artists calling me and they called me and they were like, listen, I'm going to cry. And I said, you don't have to put up with that. You can just leave, because they were so disrespectful. I'm not even talking about to the level of no water and food was offered. We don't take that as disrespect anymore. But they were in fact like, oh, you're Diamond Artistry. Let's see what you're capable of. Imagine that. And my team put up with all of that. There was a point when they called me after the first event, and they had an event the next day morning. And they called me after the event and I said, leave. I said, you know what? Catch a bus, catch a train. I don't care. Leave, get back home.
But we'll always have the thing, and we should not spoil someone else's
That
meeting.
is true. But the incidents and the words that were used at the event were really taunting, that I said leave. And my artists were like, no, I'm not going to do this to them. So we'll put up with this. And they stayed back. And the next day morning, they did the event. After they left, this is the call we are getting from the groom's brother saying we're not paying. And I had to address the situation because I was there. So I took the phone call. I said, hey, can I speak to you? And I'm Salomi. I own Diamond Artistry. Can I know what the issue was? And he went on to explain that, they were not happy. And I was like, I understand that, but what is the issue? There is no real issue as such.
Okay. They just don't want to pay.
Yeah. Okay. And they were like, no, my mother was expecting something completely different, but then what was delivered was completely different. And then I had to sit and explain to him. And throughout the process, he's talking about the money, right? He was just like, this, we're not paying. We're not paying this. We're not paying this. And I stopped and I said, you know what? I don't want the payment. I don't want the payment. Stop talking about the payment. I am talking about the disrespect right now. Like, this is just downright disrespectful. You, first of all, don't treat artists like this. You don't speak to my staff like this. And only after all of that, I'm sure the guy clearly seemed to be better than the rest of the family. And he kind of got in terms. Only after I said I didn't want the payment, where they're like, okay, we'll pay you, but we'll pay you a little bit of it.
Okay.
And I was like,
So it's a smart way to negotiate.
Yeah, because after a while, it is really about how much you tolerate in terms of disrespect. And you want to let people know that we are not going to tolerate anything you throw at us.
Correct. And they paid,
they eventually paid. Yes, they paid a part payment.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you faced the same thing in working in commercials also, like the payment delays or something?
Fortunately for me, I was exposed to commercial work much earlier on. And I haven't indulged myself into commercial because earlier on I decided that I wanted to be a bridal makeup artist and an educator for beauty makeup. And I didn't want to do anything out of my comfort zone. Back then, this is what I decided for myself. But back in the days when I was doing commercial full-fledged, payment delays.
Because I've heard the commercials, they delay payment a lot.
60 days was
Sorry?
60 days of a payment delay is normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I've heard people getting delayed payments for even 1 year.
Oh, wow. Okay. I've not been exposed to that. I think that has happened to me in the movies.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've even cancelled that. I've put that as bad debt and left it. I've not even like gone back and asked what happened to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I know how much is it?
I think it was around 1,15,000.
Okay.
Yes.
That's at least fine. There are people who are with 20 lakhs uncleared
Oh
checks
my
and all.
God.
In this
Really?
industry. Yeah.
Makeup artists?
Not makeup artists, photographers.
Oh.
I'm talking from
Ouch.
photographers' point of view.
Ouch.
Yeah. So that is one issue that is running in this industry, like extreme payment delay. But what you have done is a smart way of establishing a little bit of professionalism by saying that you have to pay upfront.
Yes.
That's when I'm going to come to your event.
True. So in the industry is very unstructured, right? Like the wedding industry itself, I think, is a little unstructured. So putting any sort of structure there and putting your foot down and standing by it is the need of the hour. And I think people respect that eventually.
And I'm glad it's working for you at least. Yeah. I know makeup artists who have a cost which is variable from client to client. You have a fixed cost and you put it up in your website directly. So what is the thought behind it?
One, I think transparency is key. And I think, see, in an industry like this, bride is reaching out to not just you. They're reaching out to 10 other makeup artists. So they want to get information, one, as quick as possible. So I am out there saying, all information is given to you. Now you can approach us. Because I don't want to be asked questions and then left ghosted.
It's actually a very smart move. You put it out, everything on the
Exactly.
website.
So I'm like, here, have a look at all of it. Like, not just on my website. These days, I started putting it up on my stories.
Okay.
I'm just like, here, see this? This is what I charge. And this is what you get. My terms and conditions, everything is up. Everything's like transparent. I think that's one great way of establishing trust as well. So I really believe like the bridal makeup process is not just what happens on that chair. It's the entire booking process, the client experience, it's like end to end, right? So to meet them from the point of how friendly we are on our first call to how easy it was for them to get the information on what we do. So all of that had to be like, for me, I think it had to be out in the open. And I also feel like that built a lot of credibility for my brand because I was able to do that.
See, from a business point of view, when you reduce the friction between the client and you, the client is easily approachable.
Exactly. True.
Yeah. And I see that as a business person also, you're very smart. Is it because of your accounting days knowledge?
You can't.
No, all these are very smart moves. Reducing friction, putting up the price right in front of the audience. No, that reduces the friction, and they'll just know because we also get some DMs. No, they'll just ask what's the price.
Yes.
They won't tell hi anything. They'll just put the first message itself. It's what's the price. They just want to know the price.
And they will ghost you when you respond.
Yeah.
I think I was smart enough because I didn't want to be ghosted. I was just like, hello, is anybody there? After the first few DMs. So I realized the first few questions were quite common between all brides. Like the FAQs were the FAQs. It was always the same questions. So I put up everything up front so that I could handle, I would know if you've seen all of that and you came to me, you're a serious client.
Right, exactly.
So I'm cutting out the noise when I'm doing that.
Okay. So you'll right away send your link for your website when they DM you.
We do have a PDF which we have all the same details that's already listed on the website. But we send that to them so that we're, I think, assuring ourselves that they've read it. So when they go through this, they're like, yes, we know we've seen this. And these are the dates. I want to inquire your availability.
Okay.
So it immediately goes, our conversation very quickly translates to, is she available? Is the team available? And it's less on, can I know why you charge this much for this?
That is the explanation that you've given in
given
video.
on the.
Okay. So how short of a time, like how long before they should approach you if they are approaching you?
We have brides who have booked us for 2026 September right now. Yes.
So you're booked till 2026?
I'm not entirely, but yes.
Okay.
Few days.
But what was the shortest time a bride has booked you?
Shortest time, I think we've had last minute brides who called us because a makeup artist has cancelled on them or something like that. So they would say like, tomorrow this is happening, tomorrow morning, will you be able to make it? We have made it to a few if we can squeeze in between our other appointments.
Why does Christian bride cost more than other? I'm seeing your website here.
Yes. So our Christian brides, most of our Christian brides have 2 events in the same day, which is a wedding followed by the reception. Whereas all the other bridals, like be it a Hindu bride or a Muslim bride or nikah and a walima, happen on 2 separate days. And the muhurtam and the reception happen on 2 separate days. But a Christian bride, it's a one-day event.
Mostly.
99% of
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah. So it starts about like midday, say around 3 o'clock is the wedding, gets over around 4:30. They have some pictures, they come back, and the reception starts at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So it's a single day event. So, and they need a complete look change for the second event. But they don't have time to remove their makeup and put it back on.
Okay.
So the manpower required in an event like that is more than what we would require in a regular event. Because as soon as they come back, we have to change them out of the outfit. We have to get them back into fresh makeup, and we're changing their hair as well. But when I say fresh makeup, we freshen up their makeup.
Okay.
But all of that on the same day, we need about 3 people just for them throughout the day.
Okay. And as a makeup artist, do you advise other makeup artists to stay throughout the entire wedding, or they can leave?
I've been doing bridal makeup for 10 years. And the first time that I had a bride request us to stay for an entire event was recently.
Okay.
I did a VIP wedding just recently, and my bride was stuck on saying she wanted somebody to stay the entire day. It wasn't a service I offered, because I was just like, no, that's not possible. But how is somebody going to stay there throughout an entire event, right? Like, I don't think I'd stay through an entire event, even if it was my own event.
Okay.
But this was like really, my bride just wanted it. So we arranged for a few of my teammates to be there for her touch-ups. Obviously, that also comes at an extra cost. But my bride was okay with all of that. That her worry was that she needed somebody for touch-ups.
Right.
So we arranged for it, but that was the first wedding in 10 years. So,
But usually, do brides require touch-up, or like?
With how great our products have gotten, I don't think a bride requires touch-up at all.
Oh, okay.
But it's not just the products, it's also the techniques. So it really depends on where the wedding happens as well. Now, if this is a lawn wedding, a beach wedding, and the wedding's going to happen for like 6 hours, she's going to need somebody. I had a bride who, again, a VIP wedding. I think this happened last year. The wedding was at 4 p.m., but she wanted to be ready at 10 a.m.
Oh, God.
And I was just like, but why? But I also understood.
Is it because of the photographer's demand?
Photographers? No, the photographers really weren't that bad. But the bride's family is that big. And she really needed that time for photo shoots. Then she needed like that time.
Okay.
That much time, I still think is unnecessary. But she needed it, and you can't fight the bride. So that was an event where I voluntarily said, you will need to get a touch-up before you get on the aisle. Yeah, right. Get on the aisle. So I did have somebody at the wedding venue who was waiting for her when she got down from the car to do her touch-ups and then send her back inside.
Okay. So have you heard about this designer Papa Don't Preach?
Yes.
So she shared in one of her podcasts, like if you are there in the industry for 10 plus years as a designer, you will eventually get to work with a celebrity. So is it the same case for makeup artists? Let's say you are there in the industry for 10 plus years, you have gained your knowledge and your experience. Would you get to work in celebrity weddings?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think it's become very subjective right now.
Okay.
Back in the days, maybe your experience played a big role in terms of gaining a celebrity client. But right now, with how Instagram and the algorithm plays with your visibility, I don't think nobody's coming and asking you. I don't know many people who come and ask me, how many years have you been doing this? Definitely my celebrity clients don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't care about your experience.
Experience with the number of years I've been in the industry, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not many people have asked me that. It is what you're capable of doing right now. It is how you position yourself right now. In terms of your celebrity weddings and gaining a celebrity clientele, they like exclusivity. They don't like you being seen here, there, and everywhere.
Okay.
So it's very important. I think this was a very conscious step that I took. I'm not sure. I don't mean to demean anybody, but if you're a makeup artist and if you're on Instagram and you're pulling every other makeup artist for a fight, if you're dancing on your Instagram, and if you're making a fool out of yourself there, I don't think that's where celebrity clients want to go, because the association is very important for them. So if you are an artist, you're really good at your work, and you know how to present your work, and you also establish yourself as a professional. I think celebrities come to you irrespective of the experience you have in the industry.
What is your favorite celebrity wedding and why?
I have done a few celebrity weddings, but I really can't choose, because for me, most of the celebrity weddings I've done, they've happened to be my friends. They eventually happen to be my friends.
Okay.
Yes. So
I feel like you build a very good rapport when you work with them in the shoot. Like, let's say from Tarini, Mega Akash, you've done a shoot with them. Then you do the makeup for their wedding.
Yes, that's true. But is it because of rapport building? I'm not sure, because I'm one of those artists who cannot build a rapport.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very zoned out. I'm not proud of it at all, and I'm not a very, I mean, as friendly as I can seem. I'm not very pally, and my brides know this, and my models know this.
You just do the job and
yeah, and I think people who come back to me for that. If you be it Manjima or Mega or Tarini for that matter, they all love me because I don't intrude, and they have their personal space and I have mine. I think that's the basis we get connected on. So we do. They're great friends, absolutely lovely people. But I also think these are people who like the fact that their privacy is respected, and whether I'm shooting with them or whether I'm doing their weddings, I'm also very respectful of who they are as a person. They don't like to be looked at as content.
Okay.
And nobody would. And I don't make them feel like that. And I think that's very important. When I'm shooting with them, I'm not like, stuffing their face with a camera, and I'm just like,
I want to finish this content.
Yeah, let me take content out of your face. I don't do that. And I think that respect kind of translates into a rapport, which eventually works.
But then how do you produce content for your Instagram? Like, let's say, has there been issues with the privacy of brides that you work with? Like,
there have not been issues, because once a bride says, I don't want to be on Instagram, there is no questioning after that. I will get a little upset, but there is no questioning after that. There's just like, I completely understand if somebody doesn't want to be on the internet for whatever the reason may be, and I respect that. But I think the respect that I've shown my brides by not putting them on Instagram has taken me to more rooms than Instagram ever has.
Okay. I think the word of mouth plays a more powerful role. And what do these celebrities expect in a makeup artist?
I think professionalism in terms of how you're handling them from the beginning, right? They expect their entire event to be hush-hush. So they don't want you to be the first one releasing certain content. Also, you're one of the first few people to know the wedding date, and they don't want it to be released outside.
Okay.
Definitely not by like their very close vendors. So professionalism, punctuality, and they require a lot more time. Like you invest a lot more time in a celebrity wedding, because they'll want mood boards. They'll want us to sit with a stylist and discuss stuff. They'll want us to spend a little more time with them. I don't offer trial makeups, even if it's a celebrity. It's the same thing. And they are okay with that, but they want a little more time because they've seen themselves with so much makeup already.
They're used to makeup.
Yes, makeup is not a new concept for them. But how are we going to make them look like the bride soulfully, right? Like not like this is just another day in front of the camera. Exactly. This is just not you're not playing the role. You are the bride.
Right.
So you shouldn't only just convince the audience that she is the bride. You have to convince the bride that she is the bride.
She should feel like a bride.
So it takes a lot more, I think, time to be invested in a celebrity client to make them, feel as comfortable, and also understanding their emotional language. Your celebrity clients are very different from your other clients, because see, a regular bride is coming and telling me, I don't want my eyes to look dull. right? Whereas my celebrity client is coming in very specifically telling me, I want a brown smoky eye with shimmer on it,
Okay.
but the shimmer shouldn't be like chunky glitters. It has to be just shimmery, but add like a tinge of champagne to it, and you're like, So
Okay.
to understand that kind of emotional language is when my celebrity client has already told me this is what she wants, but I know something else is going to look fabulous on her. I'm going to have to sit her down and tell her, listen, first tell me what is the mood we're aiming for. Like, tell me how do you want people to perceive you as the bride, and I will break down the look.
Okay.
So let's work this like let's
how you work in a movie.
exactly like let's reverse engineer this. Don't tell me what you want the end result to be, like how like particularly you want the lash.
Tell me what
face.
type of bride you are.
Exactly. And then I will work around this. Now, I do this even for my regular clients because I'm not just asking them for give me a reference of what you want, and they show me a Deepika Padukone picture, and I'm not doing the same thing on them.
Okay.
I'm asking them more questions. I'm not just asking for one reference image. I'm also trying to read their language, their body language, to understand who they are as a person.
Right.
I follow most of my brides. I follow pretty much all of them, at least a month or two before their wedding, because I want to know who they are on a regular basis.
Correct.
I think that gives me a lot more clarity on how to translate this on the day of the wedding. So for my celebrity clients, it's really about like calming their nerves and saying.
So you say they are also tense.
Oh, very.
Okay.
Even more tensed because they have more eyes looking on them.
Right.
They are going to be picked on and criticized on. If you're too simple, they're not going to like people are not going to like it. It's not even about being liked, right? It's just about being picked on.
There is going to be a comment regardless of whatever
Exactly.
you do.
So they are quite conscious, and you have to make sure that they don't feel like an object on their wedding day because everybody's looking at them. You have to really when I'm working with a bride, it's the most important thing is I realized that this was your dream since you were probably 13 years old.
Okay.
Right? Like any girl's dream, right?
Child.
She's always thinking of putting a veil on her head and walking down the aisle. So I'm always thinking about that girl. So I kind of understand if they have difference in what they want. So with celebrity clients, it's just even more heightened.
Okay. So when it comes to the celebrity clients, they do the role of a bride also in their movies. Even as a model, they have also been a bride as a model also.
Yes.
So at that time, how do you differentiate them as a real bride versus a model who's a bride? Let's say, for example, Tarini, she has been modeled as a bride in many campaigns.
Multiple.
But then when it comes to her own wedding, so how did you manage to get that authenticity for her?
I think that is when hearing out the bride is most important. See, I worked with Tarini as a bride myself when she has been modeling. And at that point, I'm not listening to what Tarini wants to do on her.
Okay.
I'm asking the designer what the designer's
or the creative director or
exactly. And we're speaking to the stylist, and we are just okay. She's my model, and I'm going to make her look a certain way. Now, what happens is because she's seen herself as the bride multiple times, she's quite bored. Like bridal is the last thing she'd want to do.
Right.
Like that's the last thing she'll want to do if she has to choose. But when she's the bride herself, first thing is getting a good brief from the bride herself. Like taking the celebrity aspect out of it. As a bride, what would you want? And that is when I have realized with celebrity clients, because they're so used to seeing themselves a certain way as a bride. Most of my celebrity clients, when they come to me, they want to be as minimal as possible.
Okay.
Even if you'd seen Tarini's wedding look, she was all about like soft, like keep it as minimal as possible. Another thing about them is because they've seen themselves with makeup and because they've seen themselves with my makeup, the trust factor is already there.
Okay.
I do not let my regular brides also sit in front of the mirror. Nor do my celebrity clients sit in front of the mirror.
Once you finish it, only
Once I finish is when they see. So that for me, my high, my adrenaline is when they look at themselves in the mirror and they react, and that's when I'm like, ha, jackpot. So that moment is very important for me, right? So even for Tarini, the idea was to make her more of herself and less of a brief from other people.
Correct.
That was the first thing. I think second thing is minimalism
Hmm.
in these factors, because
Is it because they're tired of all the things that
they've seen
they've been
themselves
doing it
go-
again and again?
all the jewelry they've worn,
Mm.
all the saris they've worn,
Mm.
they've seen themselves in pastels, they've seen themselves in
Bright
reds.
colors.
Yeah, so they've seen everything.
Okay.
So on their wedding day, I think they just want to actually show who they are.
Right. Right.
And to
Mm.
bring that essence out is what I
Mhm.
come in for.
All right. But then, how do you achieve the same type of finish for celebrities as well as your regular brides? Like, not necessarily all your regular brides will have the flawless skin, right? How do you achieve the same type of finish? Like, I'm going through your Instagram. It is the same type of finish for celebrities as well as your regular brides.
Really? I'm
Yep.
quite honored. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to give credits to people, to my brides for this. It's really not me.
Mhm.
Because the way people started taking care of their skin right now,
Mhm.
and the knowledge they have and the exposure they have to skincare
Mhm.
and how important their skin is quite widened,
Mhm.
and people have started taking care of their skin.
Mhm.
Back in the day, the only issue we used to have was bad skin.
Mhm.
People were a little shy and a little timid about going to a dermatologist or getting a peel or getting a facial or doing like a chemical treatment days before the wedding.
Right.
They were a little shy about that. But now almost every other girl is maintaining her skin very well, which I think is what is translating to pictures and videos.
Right. Okay. But then, what are the 3 tips that you will tell for your brides just a month before their wedding?
A month before their wedding, they don't have too much time to try anything new.
Okay.
So I'm
So
going to
let's say 3 months.
if you have 3 months, I would say run to a dermatologist with, obviously, make sure a credible dermatologist. Go to a dermatologist, get your skincare sorted, get something as simple as a good moisturizer, one active serum, any active, whatever is your need. Um, just start working on your skin 3 months ahead. 3 months ahead or 1 month ahead. One thing I want you to do is gulp down your water.
Okay.
Yeah, hydration is key because the more you're hydrated, the less I have to do. Yeah. And
Can you actually sense it if the bride is hydrated or not?
yes,
Okay.
the first thing I see is how hydrated or dehydrated my bride is. I do consultations with my brides a month prior to the wedding, and the second I see them, I'm just like, please wear a lip balm, please drink your water.
Okay.
Like, I understand you're stressed out, but water is like my best friend. I shouldn't be the one talking because I don't drink so much water myself, but I try. But for my brides, if you're gonna, like, if the wedding is 3 months ahead, go to a dermatologist, go fix your water intake. Your skincare is really important. Stop stepping out without a sunscreen. Mindfulness is also important. So I'm either going to say, try meditating, try journaling, because you need a way to vent out the building up stress. People are not taking that into consideration. They're like, oh, what stress? I am having fun. Planning for my
That is
wedding.
the biggest event of your life you have.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're not aware of the stress, though they are stressed.
Okay.
Like, the self-awareness is not
And
there.
on the wedding day, it will be shown on
Exactly.
the day. Okay.
And I am dealing with that.
Okay.
So I'm always like, try to find a positive coping mechanism, like journal, like put down your thoughts somewhere, meditate, breath work or something.
Right. And what are the things that they should avoid necessarily?
Necessarily anything that is going to dehydrate you.
Okay.
So I would say alcohol, smoking, anything that's going to suck out water from your body, don't, like, avoid doing it. I would avoid any harsh treatments on your skin or harsh creams. Basically, you saw this on Instagram and an influencer said this is the best cream for my bridal glow.
Please don't try it before your wedding.
Yes. Stop putting natural kitchen things on your face right before your wedding. And also be careful with your hair removal process. A lot of brides just go wax their faces. They go to a parlor close by and they said, oh, okay, this is safe. And it has always ended up in a mess. So, yeah.
What do you mean by the natural homemade?
Homemade.
Is it like something like the Multani Matti or something?
Yes, Multani Matti, more than Multani Matti. I know a lot of people who start breaking out right before the wedding and put neem leaves on their face, tulsi on their face, because, somebody suggested it, cousins suggested it.
Okay.
And it would create such a mess.
Okay.
Putting lime on the face as a way of lightening the skin. Yeah.
What is the go-to thing that you have to do when you are started to break out?
If you were to ask me as somebody who is dealing with adult acne,
Mm.
first thing I do is cry.
Okay.
Second thing I do
No,
is
for a bride who's probably gonna get married in one.
pimple patches really help.
Oh, okay.
Get a good quality pimple patch.
Mm.
So what we're trying to avoid right now is the bump,
Mm.
because the bump is what makeup can't cover.
Mm.
As long as you don't have a bump, if you're left with a mark, I can come in to help you with that.
Okay.
But a bump is what we can't cover. So a good pimple patch
Mm.
will really take you a long way.
Okay. So let's flip the coin once, Salomi. Like, let's say you're a bride. What are the things that you will expect from a makeup artist?
Nice. If I was a bride, what will I expect from a makeup artist? I think for me, uh, my makeup artist's presence, like their energy, is
Mm.
going to matter to me,
Mm.
because I don't know what state I'll be at,
Mm.
but I need my makeup artist to be somebody who's going to calm me down.
Okay.
I wouldn't want somebody around me who's very anxious.
Mm.
As-
Who's anxious themselves?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Because I can pick on people's energy, and
Everyone can pick on
yeah.
people's energy.
So for me, it's very important that someone's calm
Mm.
and someone's not like, yeah. So that is very, very important. And how they deal with people around them is very important. Like, I notice this a lot, like how you deal with your staff, right? So I would love for my makeup artist to not deal with their staff very roughly, and they're like,
Right.
do this for me, do that for me. No, I wouldn't want that. Like, I like watching people who work in a very collaborative way. For me, again, I'm not talking about myself, but for me, if you see me and my hairstylist work, a lot of people have said this. For us, it's like we're dancing. We have a rhythm. Yeah, I just know when to step back. She knows when to step back. We're not pulling and pushing the bride. So the bride is not stressed out because of me and my hairstylist.
You're very organized the way.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is so important. So I think energy and how they're treating other people is very important. I'm also kind of going to peek into their kit, because
Okay.
I have experience with makeup, and I would never do my own makeup at my wedding. So I'm going to hire someone.
Okay.
But I would like to look at their brushes.
Why so?
Why so? Because I really want to enjoy the day. I don't want to be worried about how I'm looking. I'm going to be like, that's your headache. You worry about how I'm looking. I want to like take a chill pill and, like walk down the aisle, like a very calm and composed man.
Okay.
So for that reason, I don't think I'll do it myself. Yeah. So I'm going to peek into their kit.
Cool you are.
Now, that is a tricky question. I'm going to have to clone me. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure. I think I'm going to call Charlotte Tilbury.
Okay.
That's the dream.
So as a makeup artist, you have the opportunity to work with multiple brands, right? What are the 5 brands that you swear by and you stand by?
5 brands. Interesting. I think my first favorite has to be the Estee Lauder Cosmetics.
Okay.
Absolutely love what they do in terms of their skincare and their complexion products. Something else would be Charlotte Tilbury. Love. Absolutely love. I have recently been in love with makeup artist owned makeup brands.
Okay.
Like Patrick Ta, brilliant makeup artist. So when he comes out with a brand, I know he knows his thing, right?
Okay.
He's not just like giving us random stuff. And so I think Patrick Ta next. Makeup by Mario is an amazing makeup brand. Mario is Kim K's makeup artist who again created his own makeup brand, his foundations, his setting spray. Everything the man does so far has been quite good.
Okay.
Yeah, so Charlotte Tilbury, Elka,
4, you covered 4.
Something
more.
else. One more. I have to mention Krylon here. It's a very underrated brand, but it is a brand completely backed by science. I can do makeup without my entire kit, but not without my Krylon palette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I closely work with makeup artists. No, I know all these brands and they do also say the same thing.
Nice.
Yeah. What are 5 drugstore brands that you swear?
Drugstore brands have really upped their game recently. And to be honest, I'm not finding a lot of difference between a a high-end and a drugstore.
I really want to ask this question. What are the differences between this drugstore and high-end brands?
Mhm.
Is it affecting the makeup in terms of longevity? Like this will stay for 3 hours and the other one will stay for 5 hours. Is it something like that? Or?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
So a drugstore brand and a high-end brand have absolutely nothing to do with longevity because their ingredients are pretty much the same in terms of longevity. I think the difference, if you're going to ask me what really is the difference, is pricing and brand positioning.
Oh, that's it.
Honestly, that is what it is.
Okay.
But brands are really catching up. Like the beauty industry is evolving in such a fast pace that brands are catching up. Like a Maybelline lipstick that costs you about 300 rupees or 399 rupees is doing the same job that a Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk, which is 4,000 rupees, is doing the same job. Now, you have to be quite open first to try things out. Second, you have to be open-minded to understand that it's the ingredients behind the product that gives you a certain
not the
kind
brand
of finish.
value.
Yes, not the brand value.
Okay. So since you're a makeup artist, you know the ingredients and you can sense it. It's kind of the same ingredient.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Is there any exclusive colors that is specific for this high-end products or nothing like that?
No, colors. I think you have wider choices of colors with drugstore brands. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think drugstore brands are catching up in every way possible. I'll tell you, maybe what makes drugstore high-end brands really different is their packaging as well. They really invest in their packaging because their pricing backs them up for that kind of packaging.
All right.
Whereas a drugstore brand is like, I'm giving you a great product, but
for this price.
Yeah, for this price, but I'm giving you a slightly lesser. I'm not going to feel luxurious with giving you the
opening of
the package.
Right.
I remember I was using a Tom Ford lipstick just a couple of days ago. Have the same color with a chamber. And the only thing about the Tom Ford was it was magnetic. And I was just like, that's it. I paid like 4,000 bucks more because it's magnetic. But yeah.
All right. So can we do a entire a makeup for a bride just by using the drugstore brand?
Totally.
Oh, okay.
Totally.
So not necessarily that you need a high-end brand.
Not at all.
Okay. What's your take on work-life balance? Like you've been working 10 years. What's your take on work-life balance as a makeup artist?
I loved all your questions, Arvind, but this one is the most difficult of it all.
Okay.
Work-life balance has been a struggle because my friends mock me saying, you should ask that to somebody who has a life apart from work.
Okay.
And that's kind of true. I don't really have a life apart from work. But very recently, in the last, I think about a year, I have realized that I have to balance work and my life as such. I'm not sure if you've seen a transformation. Like personally, I had a transformation a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I lost about 30 kilos. And that was a wake-up call for me when I realized that, your fitness and how you take care of yourself is also life. Like you can't just be like, oh, my work doesn't allow me to go to the gym, so I'm going to stay this way.
Health is the priority. Like if you're not healthy, you're not going to work.
Exactly. So for me, work-life balance is something I am still taking baby steps at. But I've realized sustainability is the key. And for that reason, I have to start taking care of myself. These days now, I'm like, I have like certain things in my to-do list. I put it on my to-do list because that's how I know to work.
Okay.
And my to-do list actually says rest.
Okay.
Rest time. Stop doom scrolling. I literally have things that I have put on a to-do list to make sure I have a balance in life. I consider myself to be not a very religious person, but a very spiritual person. So taking my time off every day to spend in prayer and to spend with the Bible is like a very key thing for me to do. And I think that balances me and grounds me. Another thing is spending time with my daughter. So these are things now that I find extremely difficult to do. I put them on a to-do list. I keep a timer so that I get them done.
Right.
But it makes me feel so much more better, not just as a person, but even as an artist, because when I come back to work, I'm able to give so much more.
Exactly. But I'm glad you are headed toward this direction. So especially when you start your career, there's no work-life balance.
Exactly.
When you're at the beginning of your career, there's no work-life balance. You have to give your 100% to the work.
Exactly.
That's how you build a
business. Especially when you're in business, right? You see a lot of these memes right now on Instagram that say, I quit my 9 to 5 and now I'm doing 24/7. Yeah. And that's what happens. And you don't realize, you don't think it's a wrong thing. And you're also very inspired by the hustle culture, right? Everybody is talking about why this is a good thing. And you kind of get you get driven by that concept as well.
But I feel like there's a sweet spot.
Exactly.
You have to hustle, but at the same time, you have to take care of your health. But for me personally, you know what happened? I can do only two things. I can hustle and I can take care of my health. Other things are gone for a toss. That's
true. I've heard this from a lot of people. But now I'm trying to find a sweet spot where I spend time with family. I'm like, okay, family time, this is me time. It's very difficult because I am a workaholic. I think 30s kind of made that change for me. I hit 30 a couple of years ago, and after that I was just like, okay, calm down.
So one another thing that I've noticed is there's no egos among makeup artists. Like even a big makeup artist will come and sit and attend your class. So what's your view on that?
I think that's a great way to look at artistry, right?
I don't think the same thing will happen in photography. Let's say there's a photographer in my same level who's taking a workshop. I'll have a slight ego to attend this workshop. But in makeup industry, I don't see that ego. That's a good thing, actually.
That is a great thing. I think it's also like the yearning to learn more, and you always have the capacity to learn more. And I think once ego hits it, I'm also not sure if it's a male-female thing or if I should bring that perspective into it. If you notice there are a lot more female... I'm not going to say this is very female oriented, but a lot more makeup artists are female, and we're all like just girls coming together, learning makeup, talking makeup, chilling. And whereas in the photographer side of it, it is a male dominated industry where I think
of course. And I've been seeing some incidents where male makeup artists are not being taught on certain classes. They strictly say no to male makeup artists.
I'm super open to male, female, anybody is welcome to the class. I'm open to teach anyone. I just need people with a mindset to learn, and I am happy to teach anyone.
All right. Salomi, if you are starting from scratch today, what you'll do in makeup, especially the competition which you have now and the access to the products that you have now, what you'll do today?
Interesting question. I think I will start taking my personal branding very seriously because earlier on when I started off, like I was telling you, I just went with the flow. I wasn't really worried about where I was headed as such. So I feel like I wasted a lot of time in between trying to do commercials, fashion, movies, here, there, everywhere. And it took me time to understand that brides are what I want to actually do. So for that reason, I think I would cut out the noise much more earlier. If I was starting out now, I would work on myself. I'm not sure if you will agree with me, but how you carry yourself, your personality, how you dress yourself up, how your hair is put up, all of these things make an impact.
No, I 100% agree with that point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working in the industry of vanity.
Exactly.
Right?
Let's say you go to a dermatologist, you will first notice their skin. Before trusting them with your skin.
True. So it's so important how you carry yourself and how you're dressed up and how confident you are with how you're carrying yourself. So now these were things I didn't do when I started off.
Okay.
I remember when I was teaching, even back in 2021, I would go to my class in a decathlon t-shirt.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would go in like baggy pants. I would go in shorts sometimes because not like shorts were the problem, but I would go in frizzy hair. I would never dress up for the class.
Right.
And my argument was, I want to be known for my skill.
Okay.
Not for how I dress up.
There are a lot of people with that mindset today.
Too, yeah. But as a person who worked with that mindset, and as a person who is working with this mindset right now,
who has taken your personal branding seriously.
Yes, who has taken my branding seriously, I think this works.
Mm-hmm.
And this gets you to places faster than that does.
Right.
So I would have started this on much earlier.
Right. Right.
Yes, I would have taken personal branding seriously. What else would I have done differently? I would have learned to say no a lot earlier. I used to have. Now I'm better off. But back in the days, setting boundaries were a problem for me. I'd be like,
The boundaries with the clients or like?
with clients, with collaboration. See, with clients, if a client would come and tell, can you put makeup for her sister also? It's simply just simply put liner. I'd be like, okay, auntie. I would do that. But now I can say, I'm sorry. No, I don't do that. I'm so sorry. I can be very graceful about saying no, but I can still say no.
Right.
So setting boundaries, doing unnecessary collaborations that don't do any good for me.
Okay.
I would say no to all of that much earlier on.
Right.
Yes. So I think these three things are what I would do first.
So you've been in the industry for 10 plus years. No? What is that one attitude that helped you stay put in the industry?
I think being grounded was very, very important. Not letting my lows affect me and not letting my highs affect me as well. So it was very important to stay grounded.
How does a high look for a makeup artist? I just want to know.
A high for me, I think, is when my classes work well for students, and when I'm seeing when I'm seeing my students perform really well, like when I see their work and when they come back to me saying, this is like your class was a game changer in my career. For me, that's a high.
And what's the low?
The low, I think, is
maybe the one you mentioned where they argue for negotiating the price.
No. I think my low is when the same thing I was telling you about, the disrespect.
Right.
When the brides probably know who you are, but the family, they don't have to know you for your social currency, right? Not for your followers, but
at least for the
just basic human respect. So low is when they see you and they're like, oh, okay, you're here. Okay, yeah. Get it done fast. And that's kind
so
of disrespect.
painful,
Yeah, it's really painful. And it kind of makes you rethink your entire choice of doing what you're doing. So I think that's a low.
Okay. So you won't let these two affect you?
Yes, as much as possible. But if you speak to my family, they probably have a different side to the story.
Okay.
My mom keeps telling me that when I come back home, and if it's a bad bride or a good bride, she'd know by my face.
Okay.
And if it was a bad bride, they're not allowed to talk to me for about 3 hours because my social battery is out. Even if it was a regular good bride, my social battery is out because I'm socializing my best there.
Yeah.
So by the time I come home, I'm just like, shh, nobody talk to me. But if it's a bad bride, I am just like holding back tears and I'm like, okay, 10 years and you still have to do this like it's your first day. Yeah.
Then what do you do to avoid this burnout? Like to take a day or two off?
So again, you can't really take a day or two off because it's seasonal and you already scheduled for the remaining couple of days. So how do you take a couple of days off? You really can't do that, but you try your level best to not let it affect the next bride you go to. Yeah. So for me, I think a lot of self-talk has helped.
Okay.
And I really try to not place my worth on what somebody has to say about me. Or the number of likes or the number of shares your reels have, right? You can't place your worth on that.
Yeah.
So that self-talk really helps.
If you don't get like the work is not approved by algorithms, that's what it doesn't mean that it's not good work.
Yes.
And how often do you think someone should upgrade themselves in this industry of makeup?
I think upgrades are so important. Upskilling is so important, especially in this industry, in the beauty industry, more than the wedding industry, because it is ever evolving. Like you see something new every day and you have to keep upskilling yourself. But I think a good time frame is probably once in 6 months, once in a year. I upgrade myself every 6 months, as in I go and sit in a classroom. Whether I like it or not, I sit in a classroom.
What classroom is this?
anybody who's teaching,
Okay.
I'll go sit in a classroom. Like you said, there are a lot of people who come to my class. I go sit.
See, I told you, there's no ego among makeup artists.
As long as I like their work and I enjoy not just their work, them as a person, I can go sit in their class, and I will make sure I will sit there for at least 3 to 5 days. So I will take a longer duration, not because I need that time, but that's a way I ground myself.
Okay.
And learning, I think, comes better then. And apart from that, online classes and YouTube, and there's classes everywhere for makeup these days. I keep seeing, I keep watching. I'm kind of living, breathing, walking, talking makeup.
Okay.
So I do that as a part of me. So those kind of upgrades I do every now and then. But like an actual legit upgrade, personally, I do that at least once a year.
Okay. And with this podcast, we have started something new. We wanted you to give a question for our upcoming makeup artist.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So we are having a diary here. So we want you to write a question for our next makeup artist.
Nice. Super.
Any guest will be on a show.
Okay.
Our show has designers, photographers, makeup artists, models, and stylists.
Okay.
That one. And you can write for a makeup artist.
This was a question I was recently asking my friends over a dinner table. So I'm going to just write this.
Yeah.
This is for any guest.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
When you're asking them, you should mention I asked.
Yeah. Sure. The final question would be like, how are you going to proceed with your career? And I see that you are going to conduct workshop abroad.
Yes.
Is this the first time you're doing
This is my first time.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm quite excited about it. Very excited about it. It hasn't synced into me yet.
Okay.
So I'm not reacting so much. But I am quite excited about it. This was the dream to cross borders and to teach.
Exactly.
I'm very, very passionate about teaching. So yeah, this is the dream.
Okay.
I'm very excited. The idea is to take Diamond Artistry places, and not just me. I want to take my team along with me.
Okay.
So if I am teaching in Malaysia and Singapore soon, I want my team to be able to do brides in Malaysia and Singapore.
Right.
So yes, that is the goal.
Okay. So all the best for your workshop.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming to our show.
Thank
and I
you,
hope
Arvind.
people have some form of takeaway in the field of makeup today.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And that was the episode with Salomi Rinita Diamond. So thank you for watching this episode till the end. Subscribe if you liked it. And please do let us know if you have any questions for upcoming makeup artists who will be on our show soon. See you.